Here's my review of Knock at the Cabin. I actually enjoyed this one, although keep in mind I'm not really super familiar with M Night Shyamalan's work, but I do know like his basic kind of twist endings that he always does. But we follow a family, Eric, Andrew, and Wen, who are going on a vacation at a cabin in the woods, when a group of four strangers, Leonard, Redmond, Adrian, and Sabrina, show up and force them to make an unchoosable choice, and that is that they have to willingly sacrifice one of their family members. And obviously, it does kind of like sound like a horror, but I would say it's more of like, it's kind of more. I hate using this, but thriller, because people always say they're similar, but they're kind of different. But basically, you kind of don't really know what's going to happen throughout this whole movie. And I have read the book, but they did make some changes. But a lot of this movie, it is under 2 hours, but a lot of this movie is just Leonard trying to convince this family that they have to willingly sacrifice one of each other. And of course, they don't believe them. They think that they're insane. And there's a bunch of kind of interesting stuff like this on why they think they were chosen, because they're a gay couple, and a lot of interesting like action scenes. I wouldn't really say action, but like more like dramatic, because Leonard keeps checking his watch because there's like basically an apocalypse, and you do see some of that apocalypse on TV, so they're constantly worried about what's going to happen. But Eric and Andrew, they decided to just wait it out. But there are a lot of really fun, I wouldn't say fun, I'd say like dramatic parts to this. And there is a lot where you are just like on the edge of your seat wondering what's going to happen next, at least for me, because I do know a lot of people didn't like this movie, but I did. But I would say that I thought it was pretty good, but they do, like I said, they do make some changes from the book. But basically, I think who really carries this movie, I think, is probably Dave Bautista's Leonard. Like, just the way, how intimidating he is, how he is constantly, like, because he's huge, and because he's just so calm, and basically he's just saying these things like they're normal and that they're not crazy, even though he's constantly saying that they have to sacrifice one each other, is just, he does a great performance. But I think all of the performances are really good. But I think that also another thing that stands out in this is there are a couple flashbacks, so you do kind of learn more about Eric and Andrew, and you also learn, I think, a little bit more about these four strangers. So that's really interesting too, because you do know that they are like really crazy. Like, for example, Adrian, like you can kind of tell, feels like at a certain point she's like snapping, and just all these people are really crazy. For example, at certain points, after like a certain amount of hours, because they say that they only have time, major spoilers, but this whole thing is spoilers, like Sabrina, or no, Adrian, at one point, like she like gets killed by the other three people, and like then Eric, Andrew, or Wen are just forced to watch, and there's like a bunch of crazy stuff like that. So it just really, for me, I read the book, but they did make changes, so I didn't really even know what to expect. But I did think that this movie was really good. But okay, so how it ends though is it kind of just gets down to the last like the four last people. That's Eric, Andrew, Wen, and Dave Bautista's Leonard. And a lot of it is eventually Eric and Andrew, because they've been tied to a chair this whole time, they get to they break out and they try to fight him. But eventually, I mean, Eric and Andrew, they do kill Leonard. Or Leonard actually kills himself. But it's kind of really hard to watch. But I think that with this movie, and this movie's under 2 hours, so I actually thought they was able to get a lot done in under 2 hours. But basically how this movie ends is they actually do have to end up making the ultimate sacrifice, and Andrew does kill Eric, and then they kind of escape with Wen. But I thought that this movie was really good, and I don't know why not that many people didn't like it. But yeah, I would say that if you're looking for like an interesting kind of thriller, then I would definitely recommend it. I thought it was really good.